What's up guys, DreamcastGuy here, talking today about the new 3DS. Now, since its announcement a few days ago, the internet is abuzz with both positive and negative hype. So I'm going to go over the top 3 pros and top 3 cons of this new device and what I think it means for the future of Nintendo. Let's jump right in with number 1 on pros. Number 1. The top of the list of what everyone's talking about most is the new buttons that are going to be introduced on the new 3DS model. 2 new trigger buttons and a new C-stick in the top right show that they want to treat this more like a portable console and less of just the latest version of an upgraded Game Boy. Number 2. New screen. This may seem like a small thing to many people, but to those of us who actually love the 3D function, any sort of movement completely ruins the experience. Like if I'm trying to play on the train on the way to work, literally it looks like Mud is trying to have sex with Mario. The 3D effect is completely washed out with even the slightest bit of movement. But with these new screens, that is completely gone. Finally, 3DS while moving with a handheld. That's awesome. Number 3. Already with the announcement of this new 3DS console, they announced Xenoblade Chronicles, a console exclusive to the new 3DS. But people are buzzing like crazy about the new abilities that will be added with an extra C-stick. We can have more true shooters or more adventure games. We can worry more about full, immersive, multi-leveled 3D worlds if we're not worried about holding down an R button to try and look around. Very interesting concepts indeed. Now, let's jump into the con list and see what is against this new 3DS and what it may say for the future of Nintendo as we know it. Number 1. Now, number 1 on this list, I have to go with the name. Come on, the new 3DS. The official name of this product from a multi-million-dollar company is new 3DS. Now, you don't see me going to the store going, "Hi, where do you keep the new Cheerios?" No, of course not. I say, "Hey, where's those chocolate Cheerios that actually cause diabetes?" That's what I'm looking for. You have to have a recognizable brand name. You have to realize branding is important. As soon as they hear the name, they picture the product. When I hear Wii U, I don't think of a Wii U, I think of a Wii. When I hear the new 3DS, I think of the 3DS XL, personally. I'm not sure what most of your consumer base is thinking. That's what comes to my mind. Number 2. Second on this list of cons is the fragmented audience. Every time you come out with a new product and tell people the previous product is no longer necessary, you draw a line in the sand. And you say, step across this, join the new club and see all the cool new toys we have, or if you can't afford it, stay there, be beneath us, play the old product. And I don't think that's a good idea with you, Nintendo. You need massive inclusivity. You cannot afford to exclude anyone right now. Number 3. The last on the con list, and I feel like one of the most giant ones, the ones that I'm hearing the most from so many hundreds of people, especially all of my friends, is that this makes it feel like all previous hardware is obsolete. You have sold 25 million 3DSs at this point. You have millions and millions of games in circulation, and you are basically telling people, hey, with this new toy, you can just throw all that shit in the trash. Your old 3DS is fucking garbage. You can still play the new Pokemon, you can play still all your fancy Fire Emblem games, but only this new, brand new, fancy 3DS is valid, and everything else is a paperweight full of monkey semen. And that's just not a good idea. Shigeru Miyamoto recently had this very interesting quote. Let me read this to you real quick. These are the sort of people who, for example, might want to watch a movie. They might want to go to Disneyland. Their attitude is, okay, I am the customer. You are supposed to entertain me. It's kind of a passive attitude that they're taking. And to me, it's kind of a pathetic thing. They do not know how interesting it is if you move one step further and try and challenge yourself with more advanced games. And I think this is the most telling part of all. That shows Shigeru Miyamoto, the inventor of Mario, one of the head directors of Nintendo. Clearly, even in this quote, which just came out last week, he's saying, you either become a hardcore Nintendo fan, or you can go straight to hell. And I don't know if that's a good idea. I really don't think it is right now, Nintendo. Now, Nintendo, let me tell you a little short story about somebody you killed a long time ago. His name was Sega. Now, Sega was a good guy, but Sega had a bad habit. Sega liked to make consoles more than he liked to make games. I mean, he came out with the SG-1000, then he came out with the Sega Master System, then he came out with the Sega Genesis, then he came out with the Sega CD, then he came out with the Sega 32X, then they started working on Project Neptune, a standalone version of the Sega CD, scrapped that so they could work on the Saturn, finished the Saturn, and 6 months after the Saturn, started working on the Sega Dreamcast. Now you see, Sega, they really wanted to be cutting edge, but the problem was they kept splitting their audience. They had a real dedicated fan base that really wanted to get all the latest and greatest Sega goods, but when there's more goods than games, well, people don't want to stay so invested anymore. So Nintendo, please, take a hint from our fallen heroes over at Sega. Look, stick with something. Stick with anything. Stick with the Wii U. Stick with the 3DS, but every time you come out with a new version of a new game on a new console, you're going to get another little chunk that's going to fall away. And hopefully, you don't lose too many chunks before you learn your lesson. This has been Dreamcast Guy. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. But as always, keep dreaming.